Good evening, friends, and welcome back to Evenings at Peaceful Haven. My name is Cassandra Paquin, and I am your host. I am really looking forward to this discussion tonight. I hope you are. We've been um, we've been reading in Psalm 18, as you're familiar, but tonight we're actually starting. We're going to continue in 18, but we're actually starting a short series on what it means to encourage one another. What does that biblically look like, and practically too? Because one of the key components here that makes our lives at Peaceful Haven more peaceful and makes it, I don't like the word successful, but uh, makes it just a more harmonious and joyful existence with each other. There's three of us here, and sometimes four, and and you have to learn when you're four adults how to respect one another and what that looks like, how to get along, and how to love one another, and how to treat each other with respect, but also how to uh, be a positive influence in each other's lives. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. What inspired me to take off on this journey of taking a look at how harmonious encouragement, or how encouragement is a key part of the harmonious relationship in a home, is I was reading in Hebrews 10:24 and 25, where it says, "Consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near." I think we can all pretty much agree that the day, and we all know what that means, or a lot of us do, the day, the return of Jesus is ever approaching its arrival. And we are, I know people have been saying this for a couple centuries, but we are ever closer, a lot of centuries, we are ever closer than we have been before. And I truly believe, given the signs of the times and what we're seeing take place on the world stage before our eyes, we are, instead of being days or hours closer, I truly believe we are, in the mm, biblical clock way of speaking, we are probably maybe minutes away from his return. And that's a good thing, because once he does return, he is going to set this world on its ear. And that's a good thing. That is a very good thing. This world has grown very dark and very discouraging. And so, all the more reason now, more than ever, we need to be watching out for one another and lifting each other up and reaching out to those who may not be part of a church. They may have drifted away, they may have been hurt, they may have been ostracized or vehemently attacked and within the church walls, and I use that church with air quotes, church walls, because as a church we don't belong treating people like that. um, and there are a lot of people out there who have walked away, especially over the past decade, who have walked away after seeing some of the most atrocious behavior within the walls of the whitewashed walls of the church. And that's a shame. So all the more reason to be reaching out to the people who are outside of the church walls. It's all easy. It's a habit we get into, if we're not careful, to just settle into our comfort zone within the four walls of the church, and to sit in the corner of our specific little pew, and just close out the storm that is happening outside the walls of the church. And actually, I think that is probably the reason why God has called many out of the church, because you get into a church and it's easy to do that. It's easy to just shut down the noise from outside and to feel insulated and protected instead, and you fall into a comfort pattern where you figure, oh well, that's for the ministry team, they'll reach out, that's their job, I'm just supposed to be here, I'm too busy taking care of my day to day or my family, I don't have time for that. And I think God has pulled out a remnant from the churches to be able to connect with and hear the cries of those who are their heart cry, that are living in a very lonely place. And I know John and I have been in a place where we feel um, very lonely, and we have turned that around over the past years to um, recognize others like us who are in the same place, who have been shattered, who have been deeply, deeply wounded, and are really afraid to go back into a church setting, because it doesn't seem that any of the churches right around us are that we've experienced are changing their ways at all. And that's a very sad commentary on the way things are. It's very sad that it has become, in a lot of situations, not all, there are some good churches out there, but in a lot of situations, it is a Sunday country club. It's a place to go in the fall and catch up with your football buddies, and they're the ones that love the same team you do, and you all wear the same shirts on Sunday to church, which I never fully understood. During the summertime, you wouldn't catch me wearing a Red Sox shirt to church, and I love my Red Sox. I don't care if they're in the World Series or not. I'm still not going to wear a Red Sox shirt to church. That seems ludicrous, but hey, more power to you. Whatever. But church is not a country club. It just isn't. It's not meant to be a country club. Church is a training camp for reaching out in the midst of a war, a spiritual war between good and evil, and being an important part of that group of people who are standing on the side of the Lord and connecting with those who are doing good things in the name of Christ. And also, church is, I know I've heard people chide people for saying this, but the church is a hospital, whether you like that or not. The church is a hospital. And in just like in the emergency room, there are people who come in barely spiritually alive, devastated, crushed, broken, shattered, emotionally broken. I don't know how else to say it. Barely able to get through a day without breaking down in tears over what was done to them in the past. And it's our job to reach out to those people and to love them back to Jesus, to be patient, no matter how long it takes for them for their mind and their heart to be healed enough for them to come back to being able to think straight spiritually. That's That's our job. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're called to do, is be patient, loving, kind, forgiving, long suffering. Because during that time that they are healing and they are broken, they are apt to do and say some things that not necessarily mm, parallel to what we're accustomed to. I mean, when you okay, so think of an ER nurse, an emergency room nurse. She gets someone coming in who's been, who is very ill in a traumatic situation, and if that person is bleeding all over the place and is holding half their finger in the palm of their hand, and they're in shock, and they are sick to their stomach and having stomach issues because of the shock and the trauma that they have been through. Can you imagine how absolutely heartless and ludicrous it would be for that nurse to be infuriated and insensitive enough to berate the patient for bleeding on her or for throwing up on her? Can you imagine the elders of not the elders, the ER doctor coming in and chiding the patient for screaming in pain and out of fear? Can you imagine an ER doctor? No, they wouldn't do that. They would help the person. They would give them pain relief. They would give them um, a reassurance, verbal reassurance that they've got everything under control, that everything's going to be okay. They've got the right staff to handle it. They are going to see to it and keep someone with that patient until they are able to control the bleeding, control the vomiting or whatever else is going on, seizures or what have you, get everything under control. Then they're going to, when the patient is more calmed and stabilized, that's a good word, stabilized, they're going to come in and say, okay, here's the deal. We need to sew your finger back on. We've stopped the seizures that you were experiencing because of shock. We've been able to control the nausea. We've got that straightened out. We now have a surgical team coming down to talk to you about putting your finger back together. So just sit tight, stay calm. We've got everything under control. We're going to get you healed up, but it's going to take time, and it's going to take physical therapy. We'll get you with somebody who can take care of that after surgery and after you've healed properly. But we've got the right people in place who are going to walk with you no matter how long this takes, and we're going to help you. That's where the church comes in. The church has a responsibility to reach out to people who have the courage to drag themselves through the door of the church just one more time, hoping beyond hope that somebody there will be able to help them put the pieces of their heart back together again, or their mind, or both. Not judge them, not gossip about them, not slander them, not expect them to get over it, and no matter how long it takes, because every person carries their own baggage and their own history. So it's going to take as long as it takes, and it may take a whole lot longer for some people than others. And you would not catch that nurse in the emergency room saying, okay, we got your finger stitched back on now, you're in recovery, so suck it up and move on, get on with life, off you go. That's not how this works. And in the church, it doesn't work that way either. You don't expect people to just suck it up after a month or two, or even a year or two. You don't berate them and chide them and embarrass them and slander them behind their backs, and you don't you don't do that. You love people right where they are. Reassure them that you're not going to do the same thing that the last church individuals did. Reassure them and walk with them until you've proven to them, in their view, not yours, that long enough that they can trust you. And that's going to be different for different people. Because if you don't, you run the risk of running them off. And worse yet, you run the risk, if they've got young people, if they've got children that are old enough to recognize what's going on, and I say probably 12, 13 years old and up, those young people are watching everything you're doing. And they may not understand everything, but they are smart cookies, most of them. And you are impacting those young people. I'm talking to you, church leaders. You are impacting those young people in a potentially negative way. And you stand in your pulpits and you wonder on a Sunday morning why your congregation is dwindling. And I can tell you, it's because those young people are growing up, and as soon as they can get out of their parents' house where there may be a requirement to attend church on Sunday, they are hitting the bricks and they are gone. And they're not coming back. All you need to do is look at the numbers nationwide to see that the church is dying and something needs to be done about it. These young people are not stupid. They see through a whole lot. And they see the hypocrisy. They see the Jezebel spirit that has infiltrated the church and is now running most churches. And they want nothing to do with church people. They're walking away. And it's our job to stand with them so that they don't see hypocrisy and the Jezebel spirit destroying their parents, destroying their family, destroying other families in the church. That needs to stop. And so I want to encourage us that the best thing that we can do when we have families that are coming into the church broken is to already have in place a culture of encouraging one another, a genuine, encouraging culture that lifts up one another and holds each other accountable to biblical standard, biblical behavior. Because these young people, they see things that you think that they don't see. My son overheard a young adult who worked for us, who joked about telling lies, and that it was okay to lie if it was for a good reason, that God wouldn't mind it. That was one of the things that my son walked away and said, I want nothing to do with a church that teaches that. And that's frustrating as a parent, because you end up with young adults who don't want to take that chance of being hurt like their parents were. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 talks about, therefore encourage one another, build one another up, just as you are expected to do. And that's a key verse that we need to focus on. And being a good example that these young people can see, setting a good example, a godly example of being an adult, not double talking, not saying one thing in church and a different thing at home, not behaving a certain way to people within the church who are in authority or who can do something for you. And some people call it sucking up. Um, Young people see through that. And it's key that we treat each other, regardless of station in life and what they can do for us, we treat each other with love and kindness no matter what. Another good example of how we can encourage one another in godly love is to share your excitement in the Lord with others, especially your young people. Be the parent that explains to your young person the reason why we go to church is because we're excited to go to church. We can't wait to be there with God and to sing and to be a part of a church family where love and encouragement and uplifting each other is part of the culture. And it's a safe place where you don't have to watch your back and wonder who's sticking a knife in it. It shouldn't be that way. Be the church that shares your excitement in the Lord with others. I'm not going to go any further on this. I want to continue this as we go forward. Tomorrow night, we'll talk more about practical ways, what it looks like to encourage others in your circle, in your church, in your family, and how to practically do that. So I hope you'll continue to come along and be a part of this with me. I know it can be kind of a touchy subject, but one thing I do want to encourage you, my sweet listeners, is if you're at church Sunday night, Wednesday, whenever you go to church, Saturday, depending on your flavor of church, look for the people who look like deer in the headlights, or look for the ones that are hiding in the back of the church and are quick to scurry off. More than likely, it's because they're really afraid of being hurt again. Reach out to them, be genuinely kind to them. Not invasive, just genuinely kind. Welcome them, make them feel welcome, be warm to them, be kind to them. You have no idea what they're coming from. And don't get lost in the Sunday country club church atmosphere. Forget about football for a couple of hours. Forget about baseball or hockey or whatever the sport du jour is. And remember that church is a hospital. Church is a place for the army to train together. And church is a place to encourage and recharge one another. It's a place to remind each other that God has chosen each and every one of us. He has redeemed us. He has brought us to him. And it's our responsibility to lift each other up and to be there for one another. So, with that being said, I'm going to let it rest for tonight because I want you to think on this. I want you to think about how you can reach out beyond your comfort zone, beyond your little corner in the pew there, and talk to someone who needs to be loved. Love on people, be kind, be patient, and be there for them because you never know if it might be their last time walking through those doors. And we don't want that to happen, especially if they've got young people. So, we have been reading in Psalm 18, as you know. And as you know, too, I love reading in the ESV, English Standard Version. So grab your Bible, whatever you prefer, King James, NIV, ESV, whatever it may be. And let's start in on Psalm 18 in verse 36. And we're going to read through the end of 18 tonight and finish this up, and then we'll pick up on 19 tomorrow. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and see what the word of the Lord has for us tonight to water our souls and refresh our spirit so that we can get ready for a night of rest and peace. So let's do that. You gave me a wide place for my steps under me, and my feet did not slip. I pursued my enemies and overtook them, and did not turn back till they were consumed. I thrust them through, so that they were not able to rise. They fell under my feet. For you equipped me with strength for the battle. You made those who rise against me sink under me. You made my enemies turn their backs to me, and those who hated me I destroyed. They cried for help, but there was none to save. They cried to the Lord, but he did not answer them. I beat them fine as dust before the wind. I cast them out like the mire of the streets. You delivered me from strife with the people. You made me the head of the nations. People whom I had not known served me. As soon as they heard of me, they obeyed me. Foreigners came cringing to me. Foreigners lost heart and came trembling out of their fortresses. The Lord lives, and blessed be my rock, and exalted be the God of my salvation, the God who gave me vengeance and subdued peoples under me, who rescued me from my enemies. Yes, you exalted me above those who rose against me. You delivered me from the man of violence. For this I will praise you, O Lord, among the nations, and sing to your name. Great salvation he brings to his king, and shows steadfast love to his anointed, to David and his offspring forever. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us together tonight. I appreciate the message that you've given me to share with my dear friends. I hope that my words are the words that you would choose, that you would want me to use, to bless those who listen, those who join. Lord, that we would be able to each reach out to the ones that you show, that you lay on our heart, who are suffering, who are lonely, broken, shattered, who need your love, Lord. Bring those to our attention, each and every one of us, as we go through our day, as we go through our week, and most especially when we're sitting in your house, Lord, that you would show us the ones that you have been able to coax back into the walls of the church, and those who are not necessarily in the church, Lord, that you would bring us indication of those around us who need love, who need patience, who need tending and healing, Lord. We pray that you would bring each one of us someone who needs the attention and love of someone who truly and genuinely cares. Lord, I pray for every household listening, every person, every soul listening tonight and who will listen in the future. Thank you for this opportunity to come together over the miles. And thank you for the opportunity to share together here, listening as we come together at Peaceful Haven Studio. Thank you for being the best part of our evening. I hope you have a blessed and wonderful evening. Goodbye.